I'm Marc Sumner, host of the Channel Chat podcast show, and today I have the pleasure of Des Lekerman from Kocho in the studio. How are we doing, Des?
I'm doing well, Mark. I'm delighted to be here today in sunny Gerrards Cross in the studio, so really happy about that. Thank you. How are you?
I'm very good. The sun is shining, so things are good. Des, every time I get someone in the studio or the virtual studio, I always ask them how they actually got into the tech industry. So take me back. How did we get into this wonderful world of the industry? How did you come in to get into it?
Do you want the long story or the short story?
Let's have the short story. Now, go on.
I'll give you the short story. The short story is that I wanted to get into the financial services sector. I was working in that industry. Unfortunately, I lost my job because the market crashed in 1990, and I decided then to look for further afield opportunities and found a vacancy in the paper for a computer salesman, applied for that, got the job, and the rest is history. So I started off really as a computer salesman.
And what company did you work for? What was the computer?
It was called Cavell Data Systems, based in Manchester and Altrincham, and I worked there for a year before setting up my own business.
So only after 1 year you then set up. So tell me about that journey, because that must be after 1 year then trying to set up a company.
So with a colleague on the sales team, there was an opportunity for us to open an office in London, and I was living in Manchester and I wanted to get out of Manchester and move to the big city.
The big smoke.
Bright lights, big city. And opportunity came along. My boss at the time wanted to open a company in London, and we'd set everything up, found premises, and then he changed his mind on the last minute.
Wow.
And we said, we're going to do it. So that was the tipping point for us. We decided to open up our own business, and that business was called Eurodata.
And tell me about that business. Tell me about the journey.
So in 1991, we opened our doors to customers, and we grew the business in the first year from 0 to 3 million in revenue. And then we doubled it in the second year, and then went from 6 to 9 million in the third year, and then the trajectory was just up. And we found a very small niche in the market, which was supplying hardware and parts, computer parts, because they were very expensive at the time, to third-party maintenance companies who were then delivering services to the end user, which was Lloyds Bank or Barclays or London Stock Exchange. And because our office was on the edge of the city in Islington, we were able to get those parts very quickly to those end companies.
And did you have any experience of dealing with that before? Obviously, the first job you had was for a year. So, what experience have you had for dealing with those sort of types of customers?
Not really. No, the concept we raised the concept in the last 6 months of my tenure at Cavell, and we thought it was a good way to start a business because small amounts of cash were needed to start the business. And a lot of the products and hardware were brokered. So it was an easy way for us to get in and generate cash flow because it was quick sales.
And then you grew that business. Take me on the journey. How far did it go?
So we started off in a terraced house in Islington, and there was just two of us. And then we grew that business to it was about 120 people in 2011 when we sold the business. But the business in 2011, when we sold it, was fundamentally different to the business that we started in 1991. It'd gone through a lot of different changes. One major change was we decided in 2000, remember the year 2000 bug? When everybody, the whole world was going to fall apart.
Yes,
and nothing happened. The Millennium Bug.
The Millennium Bug, yeah.
That was the biggest anticlimax ever.
Yeah, it was, yeah. I remember I was actually local in, I think it was a Stoke Poges, and it was New Year's Eve, and everyone thought, there's going to be some big crash and everything's going to go wrong, and nothing happened. It was just another day at the office, wasn't it?
Nothing happened. All the banks in the financial services sector were preparing for it, and they spent millions and millions and millions. And I just thought, you know what, why don't we sell directly to the financial services sector, and instead of going through an intermediary, which was a third-party maintenance company. And in 2000, we started selling directly to the end user, and the first contract we won was Financial Times.
Wow.
And it just went up from there. And by the end of 2011, we were dealing with probably about 150 financial services organisations in the City of London, and 95% of our business at the time was financial services focused. So built from scratch from 2000, a brand new business, which wasn't spare parts and brokerage. So the spare parts and the brokerage side got us up and running and got us cash flow and a business. And then from that, we then catapulted into corporate end user sales.
If it's going so well, why sell? Why did you get out?
I think at the time, having been in the business for 20 plus years, I thought, time for a change. Done this for long enough. And most people don't stay in the job for longer than 3 years these days. And I'd been in this business for over 20 years, so I just fancied a new challenge. I think we'd done really well. We had a good track record. The business has performed fantastically, but it was just time for a change. I think I was 41 years old. 41 years old. Started that business when I was 22. So I thought a time for a change. Most 22-year-olds are going out on the Raz every night and a bit of partying. Yeah, they're carefree and footloose. What do you call it?
Footloose and fancy free. Yeah.
Footloose and fancy free.
But you weren't that. You were
footloose and fancy free. Yeah. So we'd sacrificed our 20s to build this business, and it was a full-on job. I mean, we were working 7 days a week.
Really?
For like 3-4 years, like literally 7 days a week, no holidays, and built this business up. And when we sold it, we looked back and thought, that's a great achievement, and it was a milestone. Didn't want to keep it. I wanted just to move on to the next.
So did you have a plan when you sold it? What were you thinking you were going to
do? Start up again, or buy into a smaller business, but in a more managed services, recurring revenue, because Eurodata was more of a professional services business, and at the time in 2011 there was the immersion of the MSP. So MSPs just started to come into market, and I thought I like that, and I could see a future in becoming an MSP.
And that's when you did the MBO process into TIG, yeah? Does that happen?
That's right, yeah. That was in 2013.
How did you come across TIG?
So I was introduced to the owner of TIG, and they were struggling at the time. Business was rolling backwards, needed a cash injection, and there was an opportunity for us to put some money in to the business and have an influence to drive it forward.
And how do you know if it's the right business for you? You must have had maybe other opportunities, or people had introduced you to other businesses. How did you get the feel for actually, this is the right opportunity for you?
It's more of a platform business. We needed a business to land so we could change and grow, and It was more that looking for a platform business that wasn't complicated and was available for sale. So we bought 70% of it, and then 2 years later we bought the remaining 30%. So it was an opportunity. It wasn't that this business was a standout business, because most of the customer base that company was dealing with are no longer customers, because we're clearly in the mid-market and enterprise space now.